Friends, in today's video, I will share with you a truly incredible story about a 68-year-old wealthy widow who entered into a relationship with a much younger man and what happened after their wedding. This story is based on real life, and you will remember it for a long time. Why did the young man agree to marry her? And what happened next that no one could have imagined? The deeper you dive into this story, the more shocking it becomes. So be sure to watch the video until the end. If you like the story, give it a like. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our next amazing videos. Now, let's get started. In the heart of Boston's North End neighborhood lived a young Italian man named Marco Rossetti. He was only 24 years old, but he already carried a burden that would have broken a man twice his age. His life was a constant struggle, full of sacrifice and determination. His father, Giuseppe, was slowly losing his battle with Alzheimer's disease, and his younger brother, Luca, who was only 19, was studying engineering at a local college and working nights to help support the family. Their mother had died 5 years earlier from complications following surgery. Since then, Marco had become the family's main breadwinner, working double shifts at a construction site, delivering food on weekends, and attending evening classes to complete his business education. Marco was gradually breaking down under the weight of his responsibilities. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken from sleepless nights, and his hands trembled every time he calculated the monthly expenses. Medical bills piled up like autumn leaves. Specialized care for his father was depleting their savings. Luca hadn't been paid for his education in 3 months. The world had turned into a maze of impossible choices and growing debts. On a rainy day, Marco walked into a small Italian cafe known for having the cheapest espresso in the neighborhood. As he rummaged through his pockets, counting coins to pay for his coffee, he felt someone watching him. Looking up, he saw an elegant woman in a black coat and curl earrings. Her posture commanded respect, but her eyes studied him curiously. "Are you Marco Rossetti?" she asked in a refined, measured voice. He blinked in confusion. "Yes, ma'am." She nodded thoughtfully. "I understand what you're going through." Marco's pulse quickened. "Excuse me, do we know each other?" "My name is Elena Castellano. I'm a businesswoman. I lost my husband many years ago. I've lived long enough to recognize the look in your eyes, the fatigue, the anxiety, the burden of caring for everyone but yourself. You're drowning in responsibilities to your father and brother. But what if I told you I could change everything for you?" Marco frowned. "I don't understand what you're talking about." She smiled. "Marry me." He laughed nervously, sure she was joking. Elena looked to be around 70 years old. Her silver hair was perfectly styled, her skin reflected the wisdom of decades, but her presence was magnetic, almost hypnotic. "I'm completely serious," she continued. "Marry me, and I'll pay off all your family's debts. I'll provide your father with the best care. I'll pay for your brother's engineering degree at any university he chooses. You'll be free from financial worries. No more construction work, no more stress about money. All I ask in return is that you agree to my terms." Marco stared at her, unable to say a word. "This is crazy. Why are you doing this? Why me?" Elena looked him straight in the eyes. "Because many years ago, I lost everything that was important to me. Now I have everything except the person I could share it with. Think about my offer. You don't have to love me. I won't restrict your freedom. You'll have your own space, your own life, but marry me, and everything will change." He left the cafe in a daze, her words ringing in his head like church bells. Days passed, and watching his father's condition deteriorate without proper treatment, combined with the shame of having to tell Luke that he might have to give up his dreams, became unbearable. One evening, as the sun disappeared behind the Boston skyline, Marco stood outside Elena's mansion in Beacon Hill. He made his decision. "I accept your offer," he said quietly. Within a week, all the legal documents were signed. A simple ceremony was held in the presence of a few witnesses from the local community. Marco was now the legal husband of Elena Castellano, the richest widow in town. Her mansion resembled a Renaissance painting. crystal chandeliers, imported marble floors, gilded frames surrounding works of classical art. But beneath all this luxury, Marco felt a deep emptiness, a silence that seemed almost sacred. The household moved like shadows, all treating Elena with respect and perhaps a slight fear. On the third floor of the mansion was a massive oak door that was always locked. No one explained to Marco what was behind it. He was treated exceptionally well, given a separate wing of the house, expensive clothes, and access to everything he desired. But there was an invisible barrier between him and Elena. Every evening she had dinner with him, asked how he was feeling, and inquired about his family, but she never imposed herself on him. She was kind, attentive, and mysteriously aloof. What bothered Marco most was the locked door. Every time he passed by, it seemed to him that it was whispering secrets. One night he stopped in front of it and placed his hand on the cold wood. A guard appeared instantly. "Sir, this area is strictly off limits." "Why?" Marco asked, but received no explanation. Later that night, when the clock struck midnight in the distance, Marco heard something behind the door. Voices, conversation, a woman's voice, Elena's voice. He pressed himself against the door, his heart beating faster. Questions began to overwhelm him. Who was Elena Castellano really? What secrets were hidden behind that door? And why was he here? At that moment, Marco realized that marrying Elena could save his family, but it could also reveal secrets he was not meant to know. The night after Marco heard muffled voices behind the forbidden door, sleep did not come to him. He lay in his luxurious bedroom, surrounded by silk wallpaper and antique furniture, but the comfort of the mansion could not calm the storm raging in his soul. His father's health had improved significantly. Elena had arranged for him to be treated by Boston's best neurologist, who was conducting experimental procedures. Luca's education was fully paid for, and he even received a new computer and study materials. Everyone in Marco's family thanked God for this unexpected blessing, but Marco himself remained troubled. Elena continued to lead her usual life. She was gentle, reserved, and calm. Every evening she had dinner with him, talked affectionately, asked about his family, and then went to bed early. Marco noticed that she never went to Mass with the rest of the household. She always prayed alone in the part of the house closest to the locked door. When he asked about the door, the servants simply replied, "That is Mrs. Castellano's private office. No one enters without her express permission." Marco felt like a prince imprisoned in a golden cage. He had everything material, but he was deprived of the most important thing, the truth. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Marco sat in the courtyard reading the old Bible Elena had given him. He was deep in thoughts when Sophia, a lovely 20-year-old girl, brought him coffee. Sophia was Elena's personal assistant and the only servant who spoke freely with Marco. "Is everything all right, sir?" she asked quietly. Marco looked up. "Sophia, tell me honestly, what's behind the closed door upstairs?" Her face immediately tensed. She lowered her gaze. "I'm sorry, I don't know." "But you do," Marco said quietly. "I can see it in your eyes." Sophia hesitated, then whispered, "Please don't ask me. I could lose everything." Marco didn't press her, but that only intensified his obsession. That evening, he approached Sophia again, this time in the kitchen where no one could overhear them. "Sophia," he said seriously, "if Elena allows it, will you tell me when she can talk to you alone?" Sophia hesitated again, but finally nodded. "If she agrees, I'll come for you." 2 nights later, when the house was completely silent, Sophia appeared at his door. "She's waiting in her study," Sophia said quietly. "She wants to see you." Marco's heart began to beat faster. He washed his face, put on a dark blue sweater, and walked down the dimly lit hallway, where the portraits of his stern ancestors seemed to stare at him with knowing eyes. He approached Elena's study and knocked cautiously. "Come in, Marco." Her calm voice came from inside. He entered and stood still in amazement. The room was unlike any he had seen before. Fresh orchids filled crystal vases, tall windows were draped with elegant fabrics, and in the center, sitting with a grace that belied her age, sat Elena. When she saw him, her eyes lit up. "I wasn't sure you would come." "I had to," Marco said quietly. "There's so much I don't understand." She smiled understandingly. "Please, sit down." He sat down across from her, tense with anticipation. "You're not here because of your father or your brother," she said quietly. "You're here because of that door." Marco's heart began to race. "Yes," he admitted, "it haunts me." Elena slowly stood up and walked over to an old table. She took out an old photograph and handed it to him. The photograph was of a man who looked very much like Marco, only older, dressed in 1970s clothing, standing next to a young Elena. "That's your father," she said. Marco froze. "What?" "His name was Antonio Rossetti. We met long before he married your mother." Marco stared at her in shock. "You knew my father?" Elena nodded, her voice trembling slightly. "He was the first man I ever truly loved. After my husband died, your father showed me kindness, but I misinterpreted his compassion. I believed he loved him. When I proposed to him, he laughed and said it was impossible, that I was just a lonely widow looking for company." She turned away, her voice trembling. "It broke my heart. I carried that rejection, that humiliation, with me until I saw you, Marco. You look just like him." Marco stood up abruptly. "So this marriage was revenge?" "No," she said, turning to him. "That's how it started, but then everything changed." He looked at her suspiciously. "I wanted you to suffer as I did," she confessed, "to feel trapped, controlled, used. But then you showed me genuine kindness. You spoke softly. You never raised your voice. You respected me, even when I didn't deserve it." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't expect to fall in love with you." Marco stepped back, shaken. This is crazy." Elena slowly crossed the room, placing her hand on her heart. "I know it sounds like that, but the heart doesn't obey logic, Marco. Neither does pain." A deep silence fell between them. Marco turned away. "So what's behind that door?" Elena took a deep breath. "The truth. And now you're ready to see it." She took a brass key from the desk drawer and handed it to him. "Tomorrow night, when everyone is asleep, come alone. No questions, no accusations. Just bring your heart." That night, Marco returned to his room but couldn't sleep. The revelation about his father had shattered his entire worldview. Elena's calmness, her mansion, her proposal, it was all a carefully thought-out plan rooted in old pain. But there was something genuine in her eyes. He looked at the key in his palm. It wasn't just a key to a room, but perhaps to the truth that could destroy or heal everything he believed to be true.